Yo, what's good everyone? Your boy Deke back again with another vid, and this is the 2021 Steelers season player prediction series. I guess that's what you want to call it. But we got Joe Haden, we did Diontae Johnson for the first edition. Now we have Jumpman Joe. Now let's go back. Joe Haden was a first-round pick coming out of the University of Florida for Cleveland Browns in 2010. Overall, had a very successful Cleveland Browns career outside of the whole winning part. Made 2 Pro Bowls, but then was eventually cut by them in the 2017 offseason, and that's when he ended up signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Joe Haden's 4 seasons with the Pittsburgh Steelers have been very successful, outside of a few injuries here and there. Made a Pro Bowl, and actually probably should have made more Pro Bowls had it not been for all those dropped interceptions that he had over the past few seasons. But last year in particular was interesting for Joe and the Steelers secondary. While we saw some lapses in moments, particularly at the beginning of the season, Joe still had a really solid year, and the Steelers ended up sticking with him as opposed to Steven Nelson whenever they made some off-season roster moves. Now that we got the context for Joe's career, how he ended up in Pittsburgh, and how his seasons have been here, let's talk about some of his highs and lows, namely the 2020 season and also for his career. For the 2020 high, I went with the pick 6 against the Baltimore Ravens on that Wednesday afternoon game. And not gonna lie, at this point, you guys had to be thinking this too. We were going to win this game 40-0 because this is when the Ravens had a bunch of backups in. That whole week and weeks leading up to this game, because we were supposed to play on Thanksgiving, it got postponed like 2 or 3 different times, eventually on Wednesday. I thought that we were going to win like 40-0, especially after this pick. I was like, wow, it's really going to be that easy. But then it didn't exactly happen that way, and it came down to the wire. Steelers ended up winning, keeping our undefeated streak rolling. But this has to be the highlight. Joe Haden didn't have any other big-time splash plays outside of this. He had a pick against the Broncos early in the season, but that was off a tip pass. This one, pick 6. I mean, you can't beat that too much. This was a little bit of a down year when it comes to Joe Haden interceptions. Only had 2. So that one's got to be the highlight for me. And then for the low, I have to go with Phil Rivers and this bomb that he had to Zach Pascal in the Colts game. It was just tough. I mean, offense wasn't doing too much. And then to get beat like that. Now, maybe there's an argument. I don't know if there's miscommunication or whatnot, but this was a low point. This was probably the biggest low point. Maybe some would point to the Giants game where we were beaten in a similar fashion with Darius Slayton, but I would say this was probably the worst point for Joe Haden in 2020. Then for the career high, this one's pretty obvious. This was in 2018. The Steelers were still in the hunt for a playoff spot, 7-5-1, so we needed to win out essentially. And we were up against the Patriots, who beat us the year before, 2017. That was the Jesse James catch, so we were looking for some revenge here. We got the Keller Rush jerseys on. We're up 14-10. Hard-fought game. But this one helped seal it right here. It was a great interception. Anytime you can pick off Brady in this type of fashion at home, in a game that we needed, that's got to be a career high. And then for career low, I was actually at this game. This is when Ben scrambles around. AB beats him deep in the corner of the end zone. I mean, maybe there's some more low points when he was on the Browns and whatnot, but this is the one I remember. AB just had a really good game, week 1, Steelers versus Browns. This was back in 2014. You can see this. And I think Joe Haden at this point, he was like considered a top 5 cornerback. AB just had an incredible game. So even if it was a low point for Joe Haden, we can still be positive about the Steelers with this one. That's what I got. If there's any more, we weren't paying attention to Joe's Browns career like that. So you can let me know what you think about the high 2020, low 2020, and also the high career, low career down in the comments. Let's watch this one more time. This is a dot. I mean, come on. Now let's talk about 2021 for Joe Haden. So ceiling, I'm thinking he goes back to 2019 a little bit. Gets like 5 or 6 interceptions, and Joe Haden looks like a bona fide like top 7-8 cornerback in the league. The middle ground, I would say, is pretty much exactly what last season was. Overall, pretty solid. Borderline top 10, maybe top 12, 13 in the NFL. There's a lapse or two at certain points, whether that's on him or miscommunication with him and the safeties. So that's what I think the middle ground is going to meet. Doesn't necessarily make a Pro Bowl. 3-4 interceptions, and that's that. And then we have the floor. Joe Haden has officially lost a step, and we see signs of Ike Taylor later in his career, and most likely this is Joe Haden's last season with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, which one do I think is most likely with Diontae Johnson? I was leaning more towards ceiling, and with Joe Haden, I'm leaning towards that middle ground in between the ceiling and the floor. I think he's going to have a very similar season that he did last year, which for us will be solid as long as Cam Sutton steps up, as long as James Pierre, Justin Lane, Mark Gilbert, whoever the young cornerback is in that third spot completely steps up. We get the pass rush now that we have Melvin Ingram. It could be fine, and that's not a bad thing to say. If Joe Haden's what he was last year, I think we'll take that. Rest of the defense is pretty young and in our primes, and Joe Haden, obviously at 32, we can't be expecting him to be hitting that ceiling in 2021 like that. It would be a pleasant surprise, but I'm thinking more towards that middle ground. And I think that'll be fine for the Steelers defense and not that much of a negative. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments of Joe Haden and what you expect for him out of 2021. Stay chillin'. Hope you enjoyed the vid. Peace.